Let us talk about posture findings next. Posture findings is all about identifying misconfigurations, right? And it could be misconfigurations at the application level, it could be misconfiguration at the environment level, right? Traffic application-based misconfigurations are identified because of data collected by the engine, right? So we see traffic, right? We see traffic from the engine, so it's the engine that pretty much is going to tell us whether the JSON Web Token is expired, while still the request is successful in its processing, right? Cloud environment misconfigurations are for data collected by the engine and graph integrations and so on, because integrations gives us the ability to provide gain the necessary permissions in order to be able to identify the different components. And those components, or the topology of your network, is pretty much captured inside the end graph. The remediation is automatically detected, as I mentioned earlier on, because during future scans, right, we scan, we find the misconfiguration, an environment-based misconfiguration. Uh, that misconfiguration gets fixed. We scan again, we identify the fix, and we close the finding automatically. No user interaction. As I mentioned earlier on, posture findings are identified by scanning proactively your environments and your applications. It runs on a schedule, 60 minutes for traffic-based misconfigurations, and every 10 hours for cloud environment, for scanning your cloud environments, your environments in general. And these are the default values, by the way, right? These may be different on your environment. To find out the exact values, talk to one of us, one of your contacts, CS, the CDEs, and so on. Okay, they should be able to track down those values and give you the exact value. But these are defaults. There's fixed sensitivity, and the severity behaves in a very similar way like the incident, whereby we check the context, and based upon the context, the no-name platform is going to set the severity. Now, if you happen to change that auto to a specific severity, you're overriding what the no-name platform is, the algorithm that the no-name platform applies to inspect the context, and always, every single findings thereafter, it will be set to the severity that you explicitly set in the finding policies. Let's look at a few of these. Here's an authenticated modification, right? No hyperparameters, of course. What happened? We have detected that an API without authentication can perform changes or delete data from the backend server. That's what the BE stands for. This is the message you're actually going to see. I'm very specific. I've never seen backend being abbreviated like this, but hey, it is what it is. Default severity is always set to medium. Okay. Um, by the way, what this means, an authenticated modification means that you have a method, you have an API with a put, a patch, a post, right? That a delete, of course, that perform changes to your data. That's what it means. Okay. Um, and of course, it's not authenticated, right? It doesn't make use of any authentication, and you still perform changes to your data, which is a big no-no. So that's what this specific posture finding identifies. And again, this is a traffic specific, an application specific posture finding. Okay. All right. This is a cloud environment posture finding. How do I know? EC2, right? Elastic Compute, right? This is Amazon specific. So if you're not an Amazon customer, guess what? You're not going to be seeing this type of finding, right? If you use Azure, for example, or GCP, but you're going to be seeing the corresponding findings. We'll see them in a second, right? So EC2 instance is subscribed as target to multiple target groups. Such configuration is usually fertile soil for wrongful routing and so on. So I don't know if you guys ever worked with load balancers, right? Those load balancers give you the ability in Amazon, right? Those load balancers gives you the ability to specify, okay, where to route traffic in order to manage load. In this particular case, what this particular finding identifies is that your routing configuration is non it's non-deterministic, right? So you have some intersection between your routing configuration. You have a mistake. You need to fix it, right? And it tells you review the target group's configuration for each of the instances and ascertain the target group's security assumptions do not contradict. Right? That means you do not have any intersection between your configuration. So your routing is disjoint. I don't know how many ways I can say this, but that's exactly what you want to identify. All right, this is specific for Amazon, right? Okay, here's another one specific to Amazon. APIs are served by EC2 instance without a load balancer or an API gateway, right? So you have an API installed in an EC2 instance, and it serves all the requests directly from it. You need to stop doing that, and you need to front access to your API using a load balancer or a gateway. Okay? And of course, the recommendation is remove the public IP of the EC2 because it's publicly accessible on the internet, right? And configure an application load balancer or an API gateway to front access to the APIs that are served by the EC2 instance. That's also specific to Amazon. Now here's another one that's specific to Azure, right? This is specific to Azure. How do I know that? Because I see API Management Service. This is specific to Azure. Okay? API Management Service has a direct route to the public internet. Okay? An API Management Service is accessible directly from the public internet without an application gateway. It's the same exact thing like before, right? One was for Amazon. This one is for Azure specifically. Okay? Remove all direct routes, right? And make sure that you have an application gateway to front access to your API Management Service. Same exact thing. Different types of technologies that requires different types of detection capabilities, right? Implementations. Unenforced authentication. This is also Azure. The Azure API Management Service is not configured to enforce authentication for the API, right? And when I say this API, this is going to be replaced with the exact API that does not enforce authentication, right? Through the majority of users access the API with authentication, right? So remember the use case during the incident, like in the incident there was an API with a broken authentication, right? Second slide or third slide in the incident section. Yeah, I can take you back. Why not? Let's go back. Yeah, there you go. API access with missing authentication. Remember I did the use case, 1,000 users, 500 authenticated successful, 500 unauthenticated successful, right? So that type of scenario is never going to trigger an API access with missing authentication. But let's go back. It's definitely going to trigger an unenforced authentication. Right? So the different ways you can capture the misbehavior of an API, right? Or misconfiguration of an API. And with this, we have concluded posture. Posture issues, posture findings are a lot easier to debug, remediate, figure out what the problem is as compared to incidents. Incidents requires a fairly deep understanding, a fairly detailed understanding of the API, how the API behaves, how it's supposed to be used, right? And you can only get that by talking to the developers. right? Usually. And again, as you build your experience, you're going to be better at it. Okay, so this is our posture.